Good afternoon, gamers. My name is KarQ, and this is the hot takes of November 2024, Season 13. First one of the week, we have support players shouldn't be asking for help or peels if they're being targeted by the enemy team. You as a support player should be able to handle that on your own, and asking a team member to peel for you is actively detrimental. Swap to a higher survivability hero like Brig or Moira and stop bothering your team. It's not their responsibility to help you. Bracket, this is a hot take I heard recently, and I would actually appreciate your thoughts. Okay, so I was about to say, this is not your take, this is something you heard and you're asking for my thoughts on this. Well, this is certainly a hot take. I think support players should be asking for helps and peels, and it's at the discretion of the person who is actively able to peel, whether that's better value versus them doing what they need to do. If I'm a Zenyatta player and I'm getting jumped by a Tracer Sombra and I ask for peels, or let's say Tracer Sombra and a Doomfist, and I ask for peels, that's a lost cause. That's I can ask for it, but like I would know better not to. My job there is to either A, swap heroes, or B, play to survive and buy time. Because if they're sending 3 after me, it is not worth one person to come peel, because then it's still a 2v3 disadvantage and we still end up losing. And then they could have been using their resources otherwise, attacking and trading their other 2 on the enemy team in their backline, for example. For the help and peels, I've always believed the onus is on the peeler and they have to make that assessment. And I think as a support, it is okay to ask for it, but you should also think about whether you also do have to consider if it is better option or not. The worst is when the tanks or the people complain that you're not healing them, and that's when you'd be like, yo, I need some peels. I can't heal. If you understand that if I'm being jumped by a couple of people, you won't receive healing, but I'm taking a couple people out of the fight. You handle it to the best of your abilities, right? And buying time goes a long way. Sometimes you just have to play Dead by Daylight as Ana, and if you're pulling 2 or 3 people away, that's amazing. Now, if you are getting jumped in a strict 1v1, asking for peel is actually pretty good depending on the situation. I would say more often than not it is, because if a person isn't too far away to come help you and peel for you, you put it at a 2v1 and you potentially pick that person who was jumping you specifically. Your next part of the sentence where it says you as a support player should be able to handle that on your own, it depends, but you still have to do your best to fight back and stop healing your tank and still like fight the person that's jumping you, because if you're dead, your tank is not going to receive healing anyway, so you have no choice. Just the worst is when you like fight a 1-person flanker and you actually win, and then you go back to healing but your tank dies and they flame you and be like, why weren't you healing me the whole time? It's like, oh bitch, I was busy fighting a flanker. If I died, you wouldn't have gotten anything anyways, but lucky I'm alive, you know what I mean? So no, it's not actively detrimental. That's a takeaway point. You kind of have to make the assessment. Hot take: Mauga by concept is perfect, but for Overwatch 1, and would have been a reverse Tracer, for example. Let me explain here. Tracer can duel squishies and support on dives amazingly. Mauga is the same thing, but for tanks. If he were in Overwatch 1, he'd be the ultimate risk or reward tank buster who can support only himself with his overdrive, gaining extra health. However, his spread would make him only viable to focus tanks. He'd have to try to support his other tanks while watching for abilities like Bubble, Suck Matrix, and Spin that would diminish his effectiveness. It's kind of weird to say reverse Tracer. What do you mean by reverse Tracer? Tracer going for like, you know, either isolated targets or supports, but Mauga just goes for tanks. I mean, in that concept, sure, your focus isn't necessarily like, I mean, some other matchups, like you are kind of like looking at the tanks, you have no choice but to shoot the tanks in a tank v tank matchup in a 2v2 6v6 environment. I don't like the reverse Tracer part. Let's just get out of the way, but I see where you're coming from. Your next part is you're saying that he has to shoot tanks because he can only support himself with overdrive, gaining extra health. I mean, overdrive or cardiac arrest, gives your team lifesteal around you. So it's not just for yourself, it would be for the team. His design, I don't actually think wouldn't be too healthy in Overwatch 1 as is. They need to tune a lot of the things. Maybe do make the cardiac an individual ability only. His spread, making him only viable to focus tanks, is kind of true, which is why he was like a tank buster for a while. They probably need to tighten the spread and lower the flames or something. So like, or make it so the flame long range poke is good, but it's not as potent on the tank, so he'd actually have to like pick and choose. All in all, I wouldn't say he's like perfect for Overwatch 1, but you could make him work. You just got to make some tuning. Hot take: the problem isn't that Blizzard wants to monetize skins, it's just that they suck at it. Fortnite is what inspired the free-to-play model, yet it seems companies are so dense that they can't see what makes Fortnite's model work, which is affordability. If you make one $10 purchase on Fortnite, you can theoretically free to play the entire game while still earning V-Bucks and skins you like, and those skins are usually only $12. Meanwhile, Overwatch 2 is selling recolors for $22, which has absolutely no integrity. Okay, this is my reverse hot take. I wouldn't say your take is that they suck at it. I don't know if they suck at it. They're very good at upsetting their current player base, but they're also very good at making money, and it's successful evidently on their back end, and their bookkeeper is probably like, profits still look good, we can keep raising the prices up to a certain point. They'll squeeze you until it starts, the graph probably starts looking down, then they might like make some sales and make some changes. But until then, I wouldn't say they suck at it. I think they're succeeding in a corporate perspective, but for the goodwill of the players, they certainly aren't, because obviously you and myself are not too happy with how expensive some of these skins and these prisms are. Like, for example, I don't like how 20 prisms is a gilded mythic recolor, and some of the bundles are a little pricey for most players, including myself. I get them here and there for some heroes I play because this is my job, but like if I wasn't playing Overwatch as a job, I probably would not be buying as much and they'd lose me as a consumer. But we're not the target demographic. You say they suck at it, but they know what they're doing in terms of like milking the whales. The whales will just log in, buy a Kiri or Mercy skin even if they never play the hero, and just collect those. That's their target, which is why they're not making small $10 purchases versus a $22 skin, because the people who buy the $22 skins will buy each one versus like mass volume. I think these guys obviously have like the whole psychology and analytics and statistics down, where like Fortnite is able to do the smaller purchases because they just have a larger volume of players, not even by design of their skins, but just because the game is accessible and more appealing to like an 8-year-old, 7-year-old. And then if they have a large volume of players, much more than Overwatch, they can do like smaller price tags on a per skin basis, versus Overwatch has their whatever player base they have, a much more limited player base for sure, way smaller than Fortnite, so then they upcharge because the target demographic for Overwatch seems to be people who played Overwatch 1, which means you're probably all 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. Obviously still some teenagers that are entering Overwatch 2, but that means when Overwatch 1 came out, they were like 7 or 6 years old or like 8 years old, right? The demographics are just different. So the takeaway point is, I don't agree with the hot take. I think they're good at it. They're just not good at making the current player base happy, but they're very good at lining their pockets still. Hot take, counter swapping is not an issue. Swapping characters mid-fight is one of the most unique things about Overwatch when compared to other hero-based competitive games. As long as swapping mid-game exists, so will counter swapping. The actual problem is matchups being too skewed to one side. I agree. I've always thought that swapping mid-game is what makes Overwatch unique, dynamically changing your team comp on the fly versus locking in your hero right at the beginning. I've said this over and over again on these kind of videos and all these other videos that I think swapping is fine. You just have to like balance out the extreme outliers where some matchups are just too egregious. But a lot of them are more egregious or less egregious than people think, though. Like some people really think, oh, Zarya counters Orisa simply because she can beam through the javelin spin, or Zarya counters D.Va simply because you can beam through Matrix. Well, there's different facets of the game versus one ability beats the other ability. You can play around them and they're not as bad as some think. Some are a little more annoying though, where like a certain hero can get much easier value, comparatively speaking, when they just simply pick the hero even if they're not good at it. For example, old Sombra versus Ball. You're permanently stealth waiting for the ball to come in. You don't have to be good at Sombra, but you can just make the ball's life miserable. But now like the whole, they're trying to tackle the outliers where like obviously Sombra no longer has infinite stealth. You have to pick and choose, which makes it less likely that she's in position and ready to hack the ball while invisible every time. So we're kind of pushing the outliers inwards to make it a bit more even across. And I do think you're right on this, in the sense that as long as you're able to swap mid-game, counter swapping will always exist to an extent. You just have to crush the extremes. Hot take, they absolutely cannot remove Widowmaker's one-shot. Widow is a sniper, and throughout the history of FPS games, the sniper archetype is the character or weapon type that rewards good aim with instant elimination. Removing the ability to one-shot the majority of enemies is stripping a sniper of its core appeal. If anything, Overwatch is a game with many more ways to deal with snipers than actual other FPSs, as a mobility-heavy shooter with several shutdown abilities and shields. If the devs really want to nerf Widow, they should do it in some other way. I agree. I think this is a necessary evil. The sniper archetype, the sniper fantasy, like if you don't let her one-shot as a sniper, like there's a zero reason you would ever pick her ever again. And I do think they're right, which is what they've been doing. When they have nerfed Widow in the past, they've cut her ammo down. She's at 35 ammo and it costs 5 ammo a shot, which means 7 shots. But back then it used to be 30 ammo, 3 ammo a shot. Grappling hook got moved, its cooldown got moved from like 12 to 8 to 10. I think it's back at 12 seconds. And her HP got crushed down from like 200 to 175. Now it's back at 200 when everybody else has got moved up. So they are nerfing her in other ways because she is counterable by other methods. You can dive her, other than challenging her back, of course. There are other heroes that can contest her. The smaller HP pools means the breakpoints are easier for a KarQ to double kunai across the map. A Tracer can jump her. etc., etc. And I do think they kind of need to keep Widow where she is, but like bring other things down if she's a problem. I don't think she's a problem right now. You just see a lot thanks to the Mythic skin this season. I certainly don't like playing against Widows. Like, I'm a support main. I get sniped by Widows. It's literally so annoying because I can't challenge her back on the majority of support heroes. It happens, but I do think it's fine for the overall health of the game to keep heroes like this. It's necessary. Hot take: most people don't understand that the tank diff they see on the scoreboard is a result of a team diff than a tank differential. This is true especially when it comes to kills and assists. As a tank player, as a tank scoreboard performance is heavily reliable on the performance of the other team members, especially the DPS. To some extent, yeah, but like the other bigger impact, other than the reliance of the performance of your team, is your actual team composition, regardless of how your team played. By nature, certain tanks will just simply deal more damage than other tanks. You'll see Joker Queens and like high energy Zaryas just top the damage scoreboard versus like a Ryan. Ryan can certainly rack up the damage, but in certain matchups, Ryan is like forced holding his shield up. No matter how his team is performing, like if the enemy team is just playing super long range, there's no way for you to swing on people. And if you're insistent on playing it, it's just a comp diff rather than team diff collectively. And you're right in a sense. I have a spicy take. Oh, another Widow one. Widow is the most balanced damage hero in the game. The most balanced, in my opinion, is actually Ana. In my opinion, by the way, in my opinion. Her strength is entirely based on the skill of the player piloting her. I'm a bronze tank main and I hear my teammates complain about her being broken. I disagree, as Amelie Widowmaker Lacroix isn't broken. I actually didn't even know that was her name. She's just being piloted by someone who has good aim, which honestly is pretty rare in the lower metal ranks, especially in bronze. Another thing that may contribute to Widow being hated in the metal ranks is because they aren't as good at adapting and counterpicking the Widow. I understand the assassin heroes like Tracer, Genji, and Sombra aren't within the average bronze or metal ranks player's skill range. TLDR, how strong Widow is entirely dependent on how good the player piloting her is. The TLDR is correct. She's player dependent. Now you're saying she's the most balanced damage hero? Depends, because like she's inherently imbalanced because it depends on the map you play. The map will make her better or worse. So maybe on average she's like acceptable. It's just frustrating to play against. Frustration is not necessarily the same as being balanced and having like a healthy win rate. They're not like they don't exactly go hand in hand. I could be frustrated by Sombra and Widow, but they just may not be like actually winning the games or converting wins because of like other reasons and getting jumped on and stuff. But yeah, like as much I said it earlier, but like I hate playing against Widow, but I think she's fine for the game and she feels fine right now. Remember, they also nerfed the range of her snipers, so on some maps she's unplayable because of the fall off. Not all of them, but some of them, right? And those were one of the options that they did to tackle her without removing the one shot entirely. Hot take: I don't need Blizzard to grace us with new modes. I just want new maps. Clash is painful to play, Push is annoying, and Flashpoint is migraine generating. So the new Overwatch 2 modes, it seems like you don't like. You just want more classic like Payload, Escort, and hybrid maps, right? I don't disagree. I think this is a good take, actually. I agree. I think, well, you don't need to add any more new modes. I think we stop here at Clash. We have enough. Clash, Push, Flashpoint, Hybrid, Escort, Control. I'm missing one, I think, but that's enough modes. Just add more maps to each mode, and that's fine. Agreed. Hot take: KarQ doesn't even know what a hot take is. I've seen tons of hot takes that he just calls cold because he agreed with them. Hot take equals controversial, not hot take equals KarQ disagrees. Yes, this is a cold take. I agree. Okay, on a serious note, listen, when I ramble, I get lost in the sauce sometimes. At the end of the day, these are just discussion points. They're just a nice discussion starter. It's a topic that I'll just give an opinion on, and I'll probably lose sight of whether it's hot or cold. I'm fucking lost too. That's just my opinion on them, and then you can determine whether it's hot or cold or medium or whatever. I think Push is actually the best Overwatch 2 game mode. While it was very hated when it came out, I think it's actually funner to play than Payload. The maps are bigger, allowing for more flanks and angles for DPS and support, and there isn't a constant defender's advantage because both teams are defending and attacking. You're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. It's a hot take because you think I'm trying to keep the definition right. I don't agree with Push being the best, but sure. Then the next part is the maps are bigger, allowing for more flanks and angles. True, there's a lot of open unused space, but the constant defender's advantage because both teams are defending and attacking. I don't agree with this part because inherently, if you push first and you create distance like 50 meters to 0, and the enemy team, and you win one team fight and you get to 50, then you lose the next one, the other team has to push back the distance you initially cross. It doesn't start back at 0, and then they can start making progress. So even if the same time has elapsed for both sides, hypothetically speaking, they can probably only push up to like 20 meters before another team fight takes place. And if the first team that pushes to 50 wins that one, they're still up 50 to 20. So they're going to be up. Now, the theoretical counterpoint is that because you lost the first fight, you may be able to cycle some ultimate economy and hopefully snowball 2 fights in a row. But generally speaking, the team that does win the first one, I think, holds a higher win percentage overall, but I don't have the stat on hand, so you're just gonna have to trust me, bro, on this one. Hot take: every hit scan needs a range buff. Cass has shotgun range and it's not right. Widow shouldn't have fall off, and Juno's new range is too short. They need to buff them all. That is certainly a hot ass take, because I think every hit scan is fine in the niche that they fill. Cass is supposed to be a close range fighter, and he's not shotgun range. He still has like 15 or 20 meters, which is pretty short to medium distance, right? You want to play a little bit closer, and they designed him that way because his hinder nade is a short range, and he has higher HP than your average hit scan, and when he rolls, he gets tankiness. He gets like 30, 40, 50% damage reduction. That's his design. Widow is a sniper. She used to not actually have fall off because that was her design, but because she was very problematic for a while, because like you couldn't do anything about it if she just outranged the shit out of you and you got sniped, they had to give her fall off range, because that one was like uncounterable unless you had your own Widow. At least with Cassidy, like his counter in a sense is that you don't get close to him, but for Widow sometimes you have no choice because you're just literally running out of spawn, and she's able to just grapple and shoot you literally 150 meters across the map. And then Juno's new range is too short. Listen, when I saw the nerf at first, I was like, damn, this is really short, but I think that's a nice balance to how strong the rest of her kit really is. Like, getting that speed ring speed boost overall is just so damn strong. Torpedoes are strong. Her orbital ray is so good. And her gun is consistent, right? She has fall off range because her gun is consistent 12 pellets that even if you whiff a few bullets, you'll still hit a few. She's not a one all or nothing kind of hero like Ana, where it's like if you hit, you hit, but you can literally miss the next shot and then nothing will happen. But with Juno, there's forgiveness because so many bullets come out. Even if you don't land them all, you're always getting a little bit of healing with each shot. So they need to add a little bit of fall off range. It's a knob they can turn for balance, and I think it's good the way it is. All right, last one of the video. Hot take: the numbers for everything like damage, heals, and health are too big. Lowering the healing and damage across the board and put accountability on the players to take less damage. I think if you lower the numbers on everything, if it's all relative, I mean, nothing really changes in a sense if the TTK is the same. If you just turn some knobs and not the others, then we can run into issues where it's like you lower the damage and heals, but the health is the same, then nothing will die. But if the health goes too high and the damage and heals don't go up, also nothing dies. But if the health goes too low and the damage and heals go up, then people still die because the damage breakpoints are too good. I think the numbers are fine. They increased the HP and they increased HP, but they didn't turn the knob on the damage numbers themselves, but they made all the projectiles bigger in season 9, which is an indirect damage buff because more things are landing on average to kind of like balance out the TTK or time to kill for a lot of the heroes. And I think we're okay with where we're at right now because they're playing on the psychology of the satisfaction of landing your shot. That's what keeps people playing. At least that was one of the reasons that I understood why they did something like that. But I don't think they need to change anything. It is a hot take. Okay, that's all. Thanks for listening and goodbye.